Welcome to the Stellantis Tech and AI podcast. I'm Dale Jewett, your host, and in this episode, our guest is Ralph Gilles, who is the Stellantis Chief Design Officer for the Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Maserati, and Fiat brands in Latin America, as well as the Global Chief for user experience, which would be all the cool stuff you see inside of vehicles. Ralph, thanks for taking some time to join us today.
It's an absolute pleasure.
That's a long list of what you're in charge of.
Yeah.
So, because this is the Tech and AI podcast, I've been thinking, in your job, your creative part of our company, I assume Tech and AI falls into one of two buckets. It's either the creative side, as we're thinking of mobility in the future, or it's how technology interacts and interfaces with people inside our vehicles.
Yes.
So I'm going to try and ask questions about those kinds of things these days. All right. And I think first of all would be how has technology changed the way you and your team do their job?
So for context, I don't know if the audience knows who I am. So I've been at the company 32 years. So I've seen a lot of things. And in my personal life, I'm kind of an early adopter by nature. I love tech myself. I geek out on sci-fi movies, you name it. I love it. I used to actually write software when I was a kid. The GoTo, some people might remember the GoTo systems. I had a Commodore 64 the minute it came out. So there's a bit of that under my skin. I'm an artist first, but I love all that stuff. So how it's changed, I think, again, early adopters in the digital space, we started using silicon graphic machines, which helped us create 3D surface. So if you imagine how cars are made today, we still sketch them manually. We use clay. It was painful to balance a car. We had to do it manually. Today we use milling machines, which rely on surfacing, which we get from scanning. And then the big change, though, has been the computing power, of course. Everybody knows that is, your device now has the power of a tower computer did 10 years ago. So that piece of it is moving so quick, and we're embracing it. We're constantly updating our surfacing software. Now the biggest thing that we're seeing is with online, free 3D software like Blender and things like that, where our designers can make 3D surfaces real time. And it's very intuitive. I mean, people pick it up within a couple days. They're masters at it. And we can actually take that data and mill full-size clays if we want from it, or give it to our professional surfacing team to refine it. So we're using those skills. We're using ocular systems we put on these goggles, as you've seen from the gaming community, and we're able to literally immerse ourselves. And I'll throw a pair of goggles to the CEO of the company. I'll put one on myself, and we're in the same space reviewing a virtual product that doesn't exist yet. So we're embracing the latest and greatest. The traditional tools have been improving, and all of the above. So it's a fascinating journey we've been on, but a lot of it buys us time. We've cut production down by over a year in some cases, and we're able to pick between our themes in a much different way, a much more exciting, dynamic way.
I'm partially curious. So you would think on the face of it, these types of technologies, and as you've noticed, has helped speed up the process. But does it actually make more work? I mean, it's easy. Can you look at 100 more iterations now than what you used to?
Absolutely, and in fact, but it doesn't need to be that extreme. I think I would say, typically in the good old days, we'd have 100 sketches easily. We can do 100 pen sketches and pencil sketches. They used to be on paper. Today, they're digitally done. We use screens to look at them. Sometimes we like them so much, we'll print them out and have them in a more permanent way. But the AI tool is something that's probably only a few months into it. We actually have a dedicated AI team, and that came from the bottoms up. Our designers were like, hey, we really like this AI. Is it okay if we use it? They were nervous because they thought it was cheating or, using tools. And same story in school. I'm actually on the board of my alma mater, and we're debating, do we let the students use AI? Because is it fake, But at work, we found a way to actually, with Viscom's help, a company called Viscom that we use their 3D software already, we can actually load the AI with our own stuff. So we'll put in very light sketches that don't take very long to do, with inputs that we want, whether it could be an architecture, a building, it can be a sculpture that we like, it can be another car from our past that we like, and we ask the AI to blend them together. And I'll be honest with you, I'm blown away. There's stuff the AI is generating that we probably would have stumbled on, but in some of it you throw away, but it's amazing. You can generate 200, 300 ideas, and you sift through them. A good designer and professional designers can sift through it so fast. So it's not that big of a deal to have more choices.
That's very interesting that your team, your technique is embracing AI. You and I have talked before. I come from a journalism background, and I think the word creation community is having a real challenge with AI. But it doesn't. Obviously, from a creative standpoint, you find it helpful.
And I don't think
unless, of course, it turns out an old car. I mean, you wouldn't want it to iterate a K car again.
Why not?
Well, maybe.
You never know. That's the thing. It's exactly that kind of thing. But that's our own car. We're not stealing from anyone, So, and that's where the creative community, like my daughter is in the animation world, and AI is very offensive to that because it's borrowing from hundreds of artists' other work and trying to amalgamate it, and it's a bit unfair. So there's concerns there, and that's something as a design community we have to watch. And our designers know that it's not going to replace them. There's no way I'm going to trust AI to get rid of 10 designers because I can do it with AI. That's not the point of it at all. It's just another tool in an amazing toolbox of tech.
So when you use AI in the design department, do you set up guardrails? AI can only go so far or do only so many things?
I'll tell you what, Dale, it's so new that we don't know what guardrails to put up yet. So we're just letting it roll for now and letting our designers experiment openly with it, and we'll see. I mean, I'm reviewing every week now. I review some AI generated stuff, but the one thing I do ask is that they call it out. I didn't mention the one thing I love about AI though is the rendering capability. Because sometimes rendering is fun, but it's time consuming and it's not value added actually. So by having the AI render a surface quickly and be dramatic, I mean, these surfaces look amazing. That actually is an easy button way, but it is useful for pumping out more volume.
The embracement of AI on your teams, you manage global teams. Is that embracement globally accepted, or are some regions more interested in it than others?
No, in Europe, they've really dove into it really deeply, and they like it as well. So what we've done across the globe, we've actually set up small AI experts to train the others. So everyone is eventually going to have access. I'm going to have an AI portal on my computer, and I've asked everyone to embrace it, understand it, because I think the better you understand it, the better you can more effectively use it. So that's the goal. Yeah.
Okay, great. So let's talk the other bucket, which is technology in the vehicle. And so on my mind, the Chrysler brand recently unveiled a new concept, the Halcyon. And when you see that, for the cabin, the interior, everything's like now projected on screens, and there's very few hard controls. Now I realize this is a very forward-thinking concept, but over the years, as we've talked about coming technologies like automated driving assistance technology, there seems to be this flow or this idea that eventually people are just going to hang out in cars and do other things while they're being transported to other places. How does that impact your vision or your team's visions as they're designing interiors or living spaces of vehicles today and in the near future?
Well, you nailed it. That's exactly what the Halcyon is about. If people take the time, the people listening to this podcast take the time to do a little homework and research the Chrysler Halcyon, it is kind of a cauldron of everything that we're working on. It's kind of a very, let's say, hint of where we're headed in the future. It's borrowing from all the different projects that are going on in Stellantis, whether it's heavy voice activation, facial recognition, projection, as you said, autonomy used in a smart way. And the idea of the whole thing is to ease your life, not to be confronted with a wall. And we're kind of going backwards a little bit. We have some cars that have a lot of screens, 64 inches of screens and buttons everywhere and features everywhere, which actually we're finding through another type of AI. We're able to listen to our customers. We're using AI today to actually monitor how customers use what they use. All those options we load up in a vehicle, sometimes we realize customers are only using 10% of those options regularly. There's a few, let's say the most younger tech-savvy customers tend to go a little deeper into the app drawer that we have on the screen, but most people only use the top 3 or 4 apps every day, and that's what they use. So that's telling us something, right? We're saying, wait a second here. Are we either overdeveloping, and the ones they do use, we should really max those out. So that's kind of what the Halcyon's about, is detoxing the environment of driving. Some people just want to, I use the car as a place of peace. Like, they have the screaming kids in the house. They're going to make an errand to the grocery store. That 20-minute drive is actually their escape, right? So that's the idea of the Halcyon. And then this idea of any modern car one day is going to be that. As autonomy is around the corner, I know it's one of those technologies we've been talking about for a long time. Where is it? But it's actually surprisingly almost perfected, especially, I would say, not address to address so much, but general cruising, boulevard, freeway. It's very close where you can actually completely relax at level 3 and enjoy a movie, a podcast, for example, or just, I wouldn't say, I don't recommend sleeping completely, but
Yeah.
So, in electric cars, you're going to be 20 minutes charging or 10 minutes charging. It's a good time to take in something. So that's what we're looking at, ways to make the environment your third space, we like to call the interior of the car.
I'm curious, Ralph. You and I have had chats before. I happen to know you enjoy driving. Actually, a lot of people know you enjoy driving. You actually go on racetracks, and for a while you were actually doing recordings of you driving some laps. It was fun to watch. I enjoy driving. How does all of this future technology work for people? I mean, Halcyon's a great idea, but I like to drive. I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure I'm the first use case for automated driving, because I like it.
And that's the beauty of Stellantis in a way. We have 14 brands, and at least 7 of them are sold here in North America. And in some cases, not all the brands are in any one continent, but in most cases we have enough variety that we can kind of decide how we're going to use each nameplate. Some nameplates will be drivers' vehicles, some will be relaxed pods, some will be trucks that have to work really hard and all that stuff. So we're going to hopefully make a system that matches the personality of our customers. That's actually what we try to do. We put a persona up on the wall, and we say we're going to design a vehicle that gets as close to that person's loves as possible. And that creates a relationship with the project, and it clears our mission, what we're trying to create. But I do believe in duality. There's times when I love my sports cars. I really do. I have a lot of manual cars in my collection, and I love it. But there's times when I'm stuck in that unfortunate stop and go stuff, and it's annoying. And that would be great to have a car that can do both. And that's the kind of thing we're doing with the new Charger, for example. It has the ability to be that car. It can be an electric car one second and a voracious performance car the next. So using tech in that way to kind of give the customers a choice.
I'm glad you brought up the new Charger. This year, 2024, is a really big year for electrified vehicles, particularly for Stellantis in North America. You've got the Charger, the Jeep Wagoneer S is coming. We've launched the Ram 1500 Rev is coming. The Ram ProMaster EV is out there. From a creative standpoint, to you and your teams, is it important to them? Do they care whether the vehicle they're designing is a BEV versus an internal combustion vehicle?
Yeah, and I'm not going to criticize other companies around the world, but we think about it quite differently. I see a lot of cars that were launched maybe the last 5 years try too hard to be electric, let's say, with outright personalities that are, they almost scream on electric, whether it's the coloring, the details, proportions, the styling of it. And we're realizing that that's not necessarily what people want. They want a beautiful car first. They want a well thought out interior space, all that. It doesn't have to be quirky. It doesn't have to be something you have to make an excuse for or explain to friends when you pull up. So number one is make it cool, make it iconic, make it yourself. We're not chasing any trends. We're Dodge, we're Chrysler, we're our own kind of mission here. So that comes, if you look at the Halcyon, it doesn't have any trappings other than showing off the fact there's no IC motor, with the windshield diving right where the engine would have been. That's how we take care of that. We enjoy some of the freedoms that come with the electric platforms. On the other hand, the Charger, you can't tell it's electric at first, right? There's a pass-through front end that's obviously also taking advantage of the engine not being there. But it has other attributes that actually are like comfort food. You see a little muscle car in there. You see some graceful lines that remind you of things that you've always loved about mopars, yet it has this incredible electric mission. So I would say that the jury's out. We'll see. This is kind of our first batch of electric cars. They're all very different from each other. However, they're all on the same platform. That's the wild part. The cars you mentioned, except for the Ram, but we have multiple vehicles on one platform, and it's amazing that design can actually push and pull the personality of a vehicle. And again, you throw the tech inside. We use the infotainment system to further that personality, whether Dodge has very different coloring and different gauge styles that we present to the customer.
Those design themes, those creative themes, are they global in nature, or again, do consumers in Asia want some? Are they more forward looking in Asia versus Europe versus North America?
Asia is a little different because Asia doesn't, especially in China, for example, they don't have the history we do. I mean, the modern car is truly a very new thing, 20 years or less, whereas we go back 100 years with some of our brands, and people that are alive today had some cars in the 60s and love them, and so it's a very different story now. We can't be beholden to our past, but I think you can go into your war chest once in a while, and why not? It's like music, we borrow rips from the past and make brand new music all the time, so I think it's the same idea with design.
Okay. Technology is moving really fast, and I think you and your team have done a really good job of staying near the forefront of that. But I'm curious, young designers come into your office all the time, and they're into the latest thing. How hard are you having to work to keep up with them, or as you notice, you've been with the company for a while, does it make you think like, maybe it's time for me to slow down a little?
No,
I'm not trying to get you to quit.
Wow. Okay, you're forecasting my career.
No.
I look at something Steve Jobs once said. You hire really smart people and you get out of the way. And it's the same thing with creatives, right? I only hire the best. There are years I don't even hire anyone because I wasn't happy with the graduating class of this college or that college. So I'm the final arbitrator of who sits in our studios. But and they know it. They know they're unicorns. I mean, every designer I hire is a unicorn, and it's wild to see a whole zoo of unicorns, because they feed off each other and they're so creative, and they know I love that. What I am is a facilitator at this point in my career. I make sure they get the tools they need, they get the tech they need, build teams. Sometimes unicorns are single contributors, so you have to teach them how to work together. So that's what I do well. At the end of the day, I still have an eye. I feel I know it looks great, and refining designs is what I do. I love to do, but I'm not holding their hands. And they know that, and they relish that. They know and the thing we've always been about, even my predecessors that ran a design office, you could be in the company 6 months and be the lead designer on a new car, or you can be in the company 15 years and be a lead designer. So it matters what comes out of your mind, not your status. And that's something that has been rewarding for designers for years, and part of our legacy. And people know that when they come here, they have a shot if they have a good idea. And we'll support that person. If it's a young designer that has no experience, we'll surround them with very experienced senior designers, and they love it too. So it's a very, very unique culture in our industry, and I'm very proud of it.
Interesting. So, Ralph, I know you also actually spend a lot of time with old cars. You're a fan of automotive history. You're regularly a juror at various Concours events throughout the year. So, what does spending time with the legacy of automotive design, how does that help you as you're looking forward?
Very interesting, because I have always loved cars since I was 6 years old, so that's 1976, and the cars that were around there, it's just I still love to this day. I love a wide body 930 Porsche from those days, and I have one. I found a way to get one, and then PlayStation came along, and Gran Turismo came along, so I fell in love with those cars, and it's like I've seen the tech part of it, whether it's sci-fi movies and the influence of high performance chase scenes from Fast and Furious. So I love it all. So I'm multipolar. I have the newest cars in my collection, but I do there's something very attractive about the analogness of an old car. When you get in there's no ABS brakes, there's nothing to help you. You feel everything. It's very intoxicating. But I visit the past, but I live in the future, right? So in my day-to-day, I'm thinking 10 years out. We have projects that are 10 years out, so I'm forced to have an out-of-body experience and really vaunt myself. And I surround myself with inputs from I love sci-fi movies. That's my number one way of being inspired, because I know that the writers of those movies interview futurists and are futurists in a way, right? So they forecast the future. If you look at a lot of things that from movies of the past, they're happening for real, right? So I find that fascinating. The only one I don't like is La Femme Machina. That scared the crap out of me. So that's where AI goes really wrong. And if some people are on people are old enough on the podcast, they remember War Games, right? So it doesn't end well.
I'm old enough. I'm convinced everything that we have today is because we grew up with Star Trek in the 60s, and you pretty much have everything from Star Trek except the transporter, right? And maybe warp drive. But I don't know.
One of my favorite things is to blend old and new. So I have two products I'm very proud of. A 69 Alfa Romeo that I put modern day fuel controls on. In the car, never was as efficient as that. And I program it myself. I have a laptop in the car, and I'm constantly fiddling with it. So I've embraced tech in a different way. Here I am, tuning an old car and making it perform better than it ever could have had. Right. And that's fun. I love that stuff.
So, I mentioned at the beginning, you're also in charge of the global user experience. So are we and again, talking about bringing the past to the future or understand. So I see with all the screens, I mean, can we develop skins, I guess? Say I want my car today to have that classic 3-gauge look in my cluster.
Yes, and yes, and yes. And there's actually a lot of that going on right now. In our new finale, there is a screen that has a retro right now. You can go through your different screen settings, and you have one that looks like a late 1960s cluster. And then another one that's all digital, right? And I love it. There's days I just want to look at that old cluster and it makes me feel good. Other days I want the digital, and we also have a detox one that is just the speed. That's it, nothing else. So Dale, let's talk about the UX team. So when the iPhone came out, I think it was 2007. Again, early adopter. One of my IT guys, we had 3 IT guys that were inside the design office that took care of the computers, and he had brought the iPhone. And I remember him calling us, and all of us, about 40 of us, looking at this thing like, oh, we knew it was the next big thing. We just knew it. And we're like, what if we made an interior like that? And we actually, at the time, designed the Chrysler 200 concept to have a projected screen well ahead. There was nothing like it. It was our first, a lot of people missed that car because we didn't have the exterior to match. It wasn't as progressive on the exterior. But the original Chrysler 200 concept, I think it was from 2009 or 8, had this projected screen technology, and we were trying to solve for it. So that made me start our UX team internally. So we took those 3 IT guys and said, you know what, we're going to find other IT guys. You're gonna be a UX designer from now on. And then that team today is upwards of 240 people.
Wow.
That does that. And we've gotten them from the gaming industry, from schools like Carnegie Mellon, from CCS, Art Center. And the beautiful thing is they're not traditional automotive designers. In fact, most of them are not. They're coming from completely different backgrounds, from the video game industry, from Palo Alto Tech. Some of them still live out in those outer parts of the country, but work for us through Teams or whatever. So it's been an amazing thing to watch the automobile become so tech full that we have to hire different people to satisfy the demand. It's outstanding. I love it.
I know we've had to work hard to get people in those other professions to consider automotive as a career. Mm-hmm. Is that mountain getting a little easier to scale?
Yeah. The ball is really moving in a good way, and some of the tech industry is actually shedding good talent. They're reducing in size like everybody else, and we're grabbing those people, and they love it. Once they're here, they tell their friends, and we get another 2 people from the tech industry. The other part they like, and I know not everyone lives in Detroit, but they love Detroit. Some of them have moved here and love it. They're like, whoa, I didn't expect Detroit to have come so far. And it's come a long way since when I moved here in 1988. So all of it's coming full circle. The automobile is a new zone of development. It's endless, the possibilities. And I think what we're trying to do with our latest work is link your life, everything, your home, your scheduling, your personal choices, getting the phone projection to be so seamless. It's almost, you can't tell the difference between your car and your phone and your life and everything else. So that's a big project. And I think the tech is the new battleground. It always has been there, but now it's because of the computing power that we have on the car now, it's really limitless, especially now that we're embracing the cloud and our onboard systems together.
I was going to say, so at Stellantis, we're really working hard at developing sort of the next generation of in-vehicle information. And we have, Stella Brain, Stella Smart Cockpit, and Stella Auto Drive all in progress. And actually, some of that will start coming out later this year.
Yep.
Does that change that move to a software-defined vehicle?
Yeah.
Is that impacting how your design office works?
Yeah, well, let's unpack that a little bit. So, biggest change in the last 3 years at Stellantis is we used to be beholden to our supply base. We didn't have very little, other than my UX team. Most of all the code writing was done on the outside by vendors. Today, we're closing in on, I think, 2,600 software engineers, brand new. The team is being built. We're building the team still. And the idea there is that we control our own destiny. Now, there are some competitors, one competitor, I won't mention the name, but has been doing that from jump, and it is impressive what they're able to do, but it's something that can be done, so we realize the benefits of it. We're more vertical now in that space, so which means we can change our code on the fly. We can update cars. We're actually doing it today. We're updating cars monthly now, finally. And sometimes we can flash and avoid trips to the dealers. It's becoming more commonplace. So there's a financial benefit, there's a customer satisfaction benefit, but now having this incredible opportunity is like, whoa, what do you do with all this? So we're setting up teams to figure out exactly how to best use it, and again, not overwhelm our customers, make it elegant. So combining that, those 2,600 coders with my 240 UX experienced people, they're playing nice together, and that's, to me, is how we're going to crack the code. And at the same time, listening real time to our customers. We can actually today monitor our customers, and they know that we're monitoring them. We can see what features, like I said earlier, but how do we now take that information and really maximize it?
Yeah. So, we're a global company, and since the formation of Stellantis 3 years ago, I got to say, do you find that enjoyable? Has there been an infusion of new ideas from where we were before Stellantis?
Unbelievably enjoyable. So the French, which is a big chunk of our company now, with Peugeot, Citroën becoming part of Stellantis, and Opel is part of Stellantis, and Fiat, and, Alfa Romeo, Maserati, Lancia, Abarth are all part of our group now. So we've had the Italians before, and they come with design first, passion, and all that good stuff. The French come with avant-garde, right? So they love switching it up. They really enjoy shocking design and really having fun with interiors, and their culture it's just what their customers love it. So our designers are exposed to that now, and it makes them think a little differently. Even myself, I love when I go to the French studios and walk through the different brands and see what they're cooking. Some of it wouldn't work in our market, but the idea of it is very, very inspiring. And likewise, they come here and they see our market is so different from their market, how we use cars differently, what we like, the size of our vehicles. So we're taking all that. The plan is to actually start moving designers around more actively, getting them to jump from one world to another. And it's happened already. Our chief designer in Italy, who's doing our smaller Jeeps, spent some time in the US, actually went off-roading with us in Moab, Utah. So there's that kind of thing going on. But we are noticing that we're stronger together. So we compare notes all the time. And I think it's a unique advantage. But we at the end of the day, the brands are the king, so we are very careful to make sure each brand has its own swim lane. And we overlap behind the scenes because it's efficient. We're sharing a ton more. We had over, I think, $6.5 billion of synergies since we merged as a company. So that means avoiding spending money on redundant components that the customer really doesn't value, yet maximizing the stuff they do value. So stay tuned. I think there's a lot of fun stuff yet to be seen from Stellantis. So
in no way am I encouraging you to stop, but your career, 3 decades in your career is. I'm moved to ask. Do you look back and say, "Hey, that was a real high point for me"? Is there anything in particular that you think was great?
No, all of it. I look back and I'm grateful, number one, to have been here so long. And a lot of my friends say, well, how do you stay at one company 32 years? But it hasn't been one company. And that's the thing. I've had the luxury of working for 9 different CEOs and very closely with the last 5 CEOs. And everyone brings a different style, different priorities, maybe slightly different priorities. And that means the company literally feels different. And this is probably the most dramatic change. The last 3 years has been exciting as we grow, but we're more global than ever before. We're more focused. We're doing electrification with vigor. Still investing in IC, but it's wild to see how we can pivot, how a company our size is continually adapting, and it's exciting, and it's forcing me to adapt, which I love. So it's always challenging. I'm only 54, and I plan to really be creative for a while. And at the very least, whatever I decide to do in the next few years, I want to make sure there's an incredible succession behind me of motivated team building type people, which I would say there is. So I know if I decided to go make lemonade on a beach somewhere in Haiti or Jamaica, I would know that the company is going to be awesome and in good shape. So.
Ralph, we've talked a lot about technology in this conversation. Does anybody still scratch out a car design on cocktail napkins anymore? Isn't that the traditional way to do these things?
All the time, and I love it. And I see a lot of our designers do that. Once in a while, they'll stop and they'll just go steal a piece of 8.5 by 11 out of the copy machine and scribble something. It's just fun. There's something about it. And I always carry a sketchbook with me. And I just never know when I'll be inspired, and I doodle something, and it's really cathartic, and I hope it stays that way for years.
So, and one other thing, so the BEV era offers amazing things in terms of performance.
Yeah,
I know you're a sports car guy. I happen to know that our CEO is a big fan of sports cars and performance cars. Any chance, do you ever sidle up to him and say, here's a cool sports car I sketched out? Do you ever try to sell him on?
I can't answer that because it might give away some future product.
All right. Well, I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble. Ralph, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate you and your insight. What fascinating stuff. And I'm sure if we got together again in a year, it might be completely different in the way we talk about it, which would be a fantastic thing, I think.
Well, I hope maybe some of our employees are listening, and some of our engineers and designers and software coders and all that stuff. So I want to shout out to them. Thank you for all their contributions. There's a lot of unsung heroes, very well-intended, smart people that we may never hear from, but they're doing a great job, and I couldn't be prouder of the work that we've done and what's yet to come. And I'm excited. So I have vision on the next 5 years. I know exactly where we're going, and I'm so excited by what we're about to unleash and do for the brands.
Your excitement is palpable, no doubt about that. So thanks for telling us what you can and what you can't. And thank you for listening to the Stellantis Tech and AI podcast, where we speak with some of the brightest minds in the tech and automotive industries. We invite you to follow Stellantis Tech and AI on LinkedIn and Instagram to join the conversation, stay updated on what's ahead, and be part of the community exploring the fast line of technology and AI in the automotive world. We'll see you again soon.